Welcome to O People of the Book YouTube channel.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله
Oh, People of the Book YouTube channel.
نبرات شعري سطرت لمداد حبري والقلم نبرات شعري سطرت لمداد حبري والقلم نبرات شعري سطرت لمداد حبري والقلم هيا قصائد سائلي قلب النوى ليس الشبم هيا قصائد سائلي قلب النوى ليس الشبم
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me out there, please let me know, whoever's listening. Great to be back. I haven't been back for a long time, and I haven't done any shows or anything for a long time. A few things were stopping me. I had a few setbacks and everything, and just suddenly today I was watching something, I was reading something, and I thought, no, I have to get back on air. I have to share this with my brothers, Muslims, and my sisters. Okay, if you are out there and you're watching, and you can share with me you can share with me whether you can hear me or whatever. Whoever's out there, please let me know. Yeah, if there's anybody watching. Okay, let's see. Moderator close. Okay, let's see. Right. Okay, fine. Now, what I wanted to say is something very, very, very important that's going on at the moment. Everybody knows what's the position with our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Okay, we've got a war that's going on. Well, according to them, who are fighting our brothers and sisters, it's a war. Yeah, and the bombings have been going on. Let's get back to here. Bismillah, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulullah. Let's get back to this now. Let me rewind it a bit more so we can go back to the same. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. So 1 second. I forgot to share my screen. I mean, just give me a minute. This is not working well for me, isn't it? Back after so many months. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So let's go here. Right. Okay. So okay.
The newspaper,
Right.
the
So
Israeli
let's get back to
military
the meeting.
decided to target not only
Let's get back to the beginning. Let me start again. Yeah. What's been happening lately is we've been asked to condemn. We've been asked to condemn our brothers, what they're doing in Palestine. They killed them, innocent civilians or whatever. Fine. If they did kill those civilians, then we condemn them. But the Quran tells us that it tells us clearly that, oh, you who believe, if a wicked person comes to you with any news, confirm it first. Then report, look carefully into it, lest you harm a people in ignorance, then be sorry for it. Okay? So we've been warned that anything that is presented to us, we have to check it first. Now, what we checked was what these people were telling us. They did this, they did that, they killed their people. They were even going as far as, like, saying that they killed babies, like, they decapitated babies and burned babies in the oven or whatever, So we were believing that. Now, every time we're going somewhere, we are asked to condemn that. Yeah, even our brother Muhammad Hijab, when he was on the show with that guy, forgot his name. Anyway, we know what we're talking about. He was asked to condemn. Now, he condemned what he knew that was going on. But we have information now from these people themselves that actually what was going on was not what actually happened, is not what we have been told. So now we're going to follow this. Now we're going to go into this. I hope you can hear the sound of this now. If you can hear the sound of it, if you can't hear the sound, please let me know. But we're going to go through it bit by bit. We're going to stop where we need to stop and comment. And again, this is not my point of view. This is a very well-known American journalist called Max Blumenthal. Yeah, and he's actually on the Chris Hedges report. If you want to note down some of these things here, note it down, because this is you verifying what is said in the Quran now. What the Quran tells you that you must verify before you actually believe and spread or whatever. So this is what you're actually doing now. You're actually verifying what you need to verify. Okay, so there you go.
only Hamas fighters, but the Israeli captives with them. Tuval Escapa, a member of the security team for Kibbutz Beria, told the Israeli press he set up a hotline to coordinate between kibbutz residents and the Israeli army. Escapa told the Israeli newspaper Aretz that as desperation began to set in, quote, the commanders in the field made difficult decisions, including shelling houses on their occupants in order to eliminate the terrorists along with the hostages. The newspaper reported that Israeli commanders were, quote, compelled to request an aerial strike against its own facility.
Okay, I hope you can hear this. If you can hear it, can you just give me a 1 if you can hear what he's talking? Yeah, the actual on the video. My sound is okay now. I actually connected it okay. But if you can hear what's going on, because this is very, very important now. Yeah, it's yes. Okay, Hamas did what they did. They attacked the bases. They attacked the armies, the soldiers. There was a concert going on, and things happened. But he's going to explain exactly what happens now. Yeah, there's a period of time where Hamas finished their operation and they went back. He's going to explain that now. After they went back, this is where the things happened now. Everything has been mixed up and blamed on Hamas, right? So we as Muslims now, when we are told, when we are asked to actually, condemn, we need to know what we are condemning. Okay, we need to know what we are condemning so that we don't get questioned on the day of Yom Qiyamah. So now this is the Chris Hedges report, and he's going to be interviewing Max Blumenthal. If you don't know who Max Blumenthal is, maybe you can do a search on him. He's a credible investigator, and I'm going to even show his report in a minute that he wrote. Here's his report. If you can see that on the screen here. If you okay, I will share that in a minute. I'll share his report, which what he mentions. He actually wrote about it as well. Yeah. So let's carry on. Let's carry on further and listen to what he has to say.
The Erez crossing to Gaza in order to repulse the terrorists who had seized control. That base housed Israeli civil administration officers and soldiers. Israel in 1986 instituted a military policy called the Hannibal Directive.
Okay, remember this now, the Hannibal Directive. This is something that is very, very important. Yeah, it's something that is very important that you must remember, because this is what's like the actual core to it all. Yeah, it's the main thing now. Yeah, and he's going to explain what is the Hannibal Directive. Now, this is what I'm telling you now after watching this. There is not going to be any prisoner swap, because according to them, they're going to kill their own prisoners. You will see in a minute he's going to explain that. So let's go through that.
Apparently named for the Carthaginian general who poisoned himself rather than be captured by the Romans, following the capture of 2 Israeli soldiers by Hezbollah. The directive is designed to prevent Israeli troops from falling into enemy hands through the maximum use of force, even at the cost of killing the captured soldiers and civilians.
Okay, did you get that?
The directive was executed during the 2014 Israeli assault on Gaza, known as Operation Protective Edge.
Okay, so
apparently named for the...
Did you get that now? So even if they're going to kill their own soldiers, they're going to do it in order not to let them, the enemy take any captives, because of the price they paid when they actually released Gilad Shalit, where they released one prisoner. And they received one prisoner, and they had to give thousands back. You see, so this Hannibal Directive now is actually in place. That doesn't matter what happens now. If they do find the place where these prisoners are housed or whatever, I'm telling you, mark it down. I'm telling you, they're going to bomb them, kill them, and then tell their people that, like, it was Hamas who killed them or whatever. They couldn't do anything about it, couldn't find it or whatever. They're not going to bring them home. The families want to bring them home, but the government does not want to bring them home. Anyway, let's carry on.
Carthaginian general who poisoned himself rather than be captured by the Romans, following the capture of 2 Israeli soldiers by Hezbollah. The directive is designed to prevent Israeli troops from falling into enemy hands through the maximum use of force, even at the cost of killing the captured soldiers and civilians.
Right. Clear.
The directive was executed during the 2014 Israeli assault on Gaza, known as Operation Protective Edge. Hamas fighters on August 1st, 2014 captured an Israeli soldier, Lieutenant Hadar Golden. In response, Israel dropped more than 2,000 bombs, missiles, and shells on the area where he was being held. Golden was killed, along with over 100 Palestinian civilians. The directive was supposedly rescinded in 2016. Joining me to discuss the reports of Israel shelling its own citizens with tanks and missiles is Max Blumenthal, who investigated this for the Gray Zone.
Okay, so this is the person now who done the investigation, and he's going to come out with a lot of information. If you want to note anything down, or if you want to kind of like, I don't know, record it, or you can watch it later on even, yeah. And this guy, like I said to you, Max Blumenthal, he's not somebody like, just fly by night or whatever. And he's actually with a website called Gray Zone. It's called Gray Zone, yeah. And Gray Zone, he even has his article that he wrote about it. I'll share that with you in a while. I need to reshare the screen. But he's going to mention his article that he talks about now. And listen to him carefully. Be very attentive about this Hannibal Directive. This is very, very important. Yeah. Okay, let's hear what he has to say.
So you did a wonderful job piecing together these reports that are coming out of Israel. Why don't you just lay out what Israeli commanders faced after roughly 10 hours, several hours after this incursion, and then, of course, perhaps give me some details about what you found out.
Well, thanks, Chris. I'm still trying to piece together what happened on October 7th. And one reason that I'm sort of left investigating even after this report that I thought was comprehensive was that in the face of so much death and destruction caused by Israel's military in Gaza, which is basically tantamount to genocide. I mean, you have systematic killing in Gaza. Everyone I know there has, luckily, I don't know anyone who's been killed, but everyone I know there has lost neighbors or relatives. They've all lost their homes. And so the Israeli military and the prime minister's office, Netanyahu's office, are recycling October 7th atrocities. And they're also introducing new deceptions in order to try to keep the media's lens focused on October 7th.
Okay, I don't know if you've noticed, but that's all they talk about: October 7th, October 7th, as if the world started on October 7th. Right, so they want to drain that. They want to kind of drum that in the people's minds. October 7th, October 7th, October 7th. Now, even there's other reports that actually mention that they knew what was going to happen and they let it happen in order for them to be able to execute what is happening now. Okay, this was planned from a long time ago. This killing of Palestinians and everything, bombing and desecrating everything, that had been planned from before. They were waiting for when Hamas was going to attack. When Hamas was going to attack, the little bit Hamas was going to attack, they were going to make a big show out of it. So that has been planned. There is also something called Plan Dalit. If you could check on the internet, something called Plan Dalit. Plan Dalit was something that was written a long time ago, 1948 time or whatever. I can't remember when it was written, but it mentions from that time how they were going to implement these things and what's happening. What you're seeing happening today now was actually written in the past already. It was already planned in the past. Okay? So don't think it's something that's just happening or whatever. And the other thing as well is that what we are being told, again, that verse of Quran, now we have to apply that to that verse of Quran. What they're telling us is a lot of lies. So the hospitals, the basements, the computers that were there, command and control center and all that. All these are lies. And the verse is telling you clearly, okay, you who believe, if a wicked person, a evildoer, is giving different translation is giving you different thing. It even says in Aubrey's translation, an ungodly man. These people are not godly, basically, and the amount of blood that they're telling, they're killing innocent civilians by the tons. So if they bring you something, verify it. And this is the verification, where you can actually turn around now and say, okay, if they did this, I can condemn them. But there's evidence that they didn't do this, so I cannot condemn them for that. Okay, because Allah will question us on the day of Yom Al-Qiyamah, so we don't want to be liable for this. This is why when I found this out, I decided to share this with my brothers and sisters. Okay, let's go ahead and carry on.
Now that it is starting to home in on the horror of Gaza, and we have all these new stories about babies baked in ovens. We've heard stories about babies cut out of mothers' wombs by so-called Hamas terrorists, rape, gang rape, women after being taken captive.
Okay, right. Again, yeah, this is what they've been drumming in their brains all the time. Women being raped and 40 babies decapitated. This was the line that's been going on all the time. Now, when Muslims hear that, many Muslims haven't questioned that. Many Muslims haven't researched that. Many Muslims, don't know. Is it true? Is it not true? If it is true, well, our brothers are not supposed to kill innocent civilians, not supposed to rape, not supposed to. So some Muslims now could have fallen into the trap of saying, okay, fine, I I condemn them for that, without realizing that this is the biggest lie. And these people now, these people who have been investigated, are actually going to put the truth in front of us now. Yeah? Every time you see a Western report, they bring the same thing over and over again, that Hamas killed them innocent civilians, Hamas raped women, Hamas decapitated babies, put babies in an oven or whatever, even up to that, you know. So, brother, there's a lot of information that you'll need to you will hear about it. So just be patient, yeah. So anyway, so this is what we have to understand now. We as Muslims, we have a responsibility to check, yeah. Now, maybe before we didn't get all this was not coming out, we couldn't check. So automatically we just said, yes, I condemn. Okay, we condemn what is wrong, and we cannot condemn what is wrong. I do not condemn resistance. I do not condemn a resistance force who's fighting to save his people. I do not condemn that. If you want me to condemn that, then that's your problem. Yeah, I do not condemn that. But here I'm showing the proof that they did not do what they have been accused of doing. Okay, so let's carry on now.
Gang raped in the streets in Gaza City. All of these lies were spun out, and of course, the 40 beheaded babies repeated by.
Right. Okay, we've spoken about that. Okay, now somebody from their side is telling us this now. Yeah, it's not Jamal. It's not like people of the book who's gone and made his own theory or whatever. No, their journalist who's actually done his report, who's done a lot of investigation, is giving you this news now.
Biden, who claimed he'd seen photographs. All of these lies.
Exactly. So Biden saw photographs. Photographs of what? You know, photographs of what? What did you see? You see, these people are evildoers. They are liars, right? And our people are falling into that trap now. If Biden has seen photos, then it must be true. You know, I have to accept it. You know, he's seen photos, and then we found out that it's false, and they come and deny it and everything. After it's been drummed in people's ears, then they come and deny it. You know. Every time they say something, then they come and deny it. Every time they've found a tunnel, they come and deny it. So the Western media just carries on drumming that in people's ears. Okay, so let's carry on.
Repeated and put forward in order to give Israel the latitude to carry out this genocidal assault that we're now witnessing. And we can see Biden was so stunned by the propaganda that was being pushed on him by Netanyahu's office and the pro-Israel media that he immediately caved. And Tony Blinken, in his recent Senate testimony, also repeated some of these lies. So I'm still trying to
see. So even their own people now are saying that they repeat these lies everywhere they're going. They're going to Muslim countries. They're going to whatever, wherever they go. They're repeating these lies. And you have people who don't have Al Jazeera, or who don't have proper media, and they believe these lies. And even Muslims, like I said, I don't blame them, but now we have to put the truth to them. If you can share this and tell them, this is the person, Max Blumenthal, read his stuff, watch Chris Hedges' report on this particular stuff, and people will get the truth. Then, okay. Now, if you want me to condemn, I'll tell you what I condemn and what I don't condemn. Okay, what they've done, I'll condemn if it's wrong. But what they haven't done, I cannot condemn that. I will be questioned by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Okay,
unpack it, because it's these lies that went beyond the actual killings and atrocities that were committed by gunmen from the Gaza Strip.
Okay, now, because of that, now they use that as an excuse. Apparently, Hamas did this, killed so many people, raped, and whatever, So now we have to respond. So this is their response now. Bombing of Gaza, and it was the same thing that happened. Do you remember with the Iraqi war? Yeah, they have weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction were just recycled and put in people's mind, until in the end people believed them. And they went to war over that. They went to war and killed millions and millions of people. over lies. And then afterwards, when it's finished, when the people have been killed, oh, I'm very sorry, like, this is not true, kind of thing. You see? So this is what we have to be very careful about, and like, we have to be careful what we condemn, and what we don't condemn. So anyway, just a minute. Right, let's go back to it now and see. Okay.
On October 7th that have made it possible for Israel to target and exterminate hundreds of entire families in the Gaza Strip, as well as hospitals and medical centers. So I started my investigation when testimony started to filter out in Israeli media, which contravened the official story of October 7th.
Exactly. Like I was saying, this is not me inventing this. This is not like, something that's been invented or whatever. This is coming out in Israeli media. There are people who are calling their radio stations. I've actually heard other programs as well. There's another one that I was going to share with you, but I lost it. I'm going to look for it in a minute as well, which mentions the same thing. And I will share with you. This is coming out in their media now, after all the damage has been done, after they've razed Gaza to the ground, and all the people are quiet about it, all the leaders are quiet about it, and everybody's quiet about it. Now it comes out. Now the truth starts coming out now. Yeah, when truth comes out, battle runs away. Okay, so here we go.
And the official story, which has been told to Americans and Israelis, is that Hamas, quote unquote, terrorists stormed into southern Israel and began just shooting and killing people at random, then burned them alive, tied up entire families in their homes, and then burned them all somehow, melted cars and burned people in their cars as they were trying to flee, and carried out this gigantic mass shooting.
Now, he's going to mention something very interesting. Yeah, just giving you a tip in advance. Hamas, a ragtag army who's got just a few Kalashnikovs and what do you call it? RPGs. They're not carrying rockets with them. They can't carry rockets with them on that operation that they went to do. Yeah, they only had their RPGs and their Kalashnikovs. Could they cause this much damage that he's going to explain now? Yeah, their own cars, people incinerated in their own cars. Yeah. And buildings and everything, the damage that they caused, there's no way that a ragtag army like Hamas, a few people who flew over in paragliders, who couldn't even carry all that weight with them, didn't bring their rocket propellers with them, would they be able to cause that much damage? Yeah. Okay. Let's hear what he has to say.
And it does appear clear that many non-combatants, Israeli non-combatants, were shot by Hamas gunmen, but that's kind of where the official story stops.
Okay.
And what I was able to determine from these testimonies is
that's where the official story stops. So Hamas killed a few people, fine. A few non-combatants, we agree to that. They took hostages as well with them, where they're treating those hostages very, very well. Okay, we agree to that. We agree to that they killed a few people they shouldn't have done. That's it, But to go any further than that now, remember the verse, what the verse is telling you? Yeah. O you who believe, if an evildoer comes to you with a report, look carefully into it. Yeah. Test it. Okay, lest you harm a people in ignorance and be sorry afterwards. Afterwards, we will be sorry for this. We'll be very, very sorry for this because of the consequences that's happening to the people of Gaza. We will be very, very sorry for it. So that's why, now we have what's her name? Okay, so. Yeah, wearing pajamas almost took over Israel. Exactly, So these people now, what they tried to make us believe, it is only a fraction that happened. Yeah, only a fraction. And this guy is telling you now, yes, they did kill them, some non combatants, but not to the degree that they made us believe. Okay, so let us carry on.
As well as just a basic and visual analysis of the photos that the Israeli foreign ministry and prime minister's office were putting forward, was that Israel used disproportionate force on its own citizens in order to dislodge a politically driven military offensive by Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which was aimed at extracting political concessions from the state of Israel.
Okay, right. Now, political concessions. A lot of people have been asking me, last time I forgot this when one brother asked about this. What reason did Hamas do this for? For what reason? They did this so that they can free their own prisoners. Okay? They did this because they can free their own prisoners. They went in, attacked the soldiers, took soldiers as captives, brought them so that they can now claim their own prisoners back. Okay, so this is what he's explaining now. The reason was that now he's not an Arab, he's not a Muslim, he's not it's got nothing to do. He doesn't have a dog in the race like they say. But listen to him carefully.
Which had been besieging the Gaza Strip for 15 years. So you read one of those testimonies, and I guess we can go into some detail about them and how I came to my conclusions.
Yeah, let's go in, because you, in your article, which people can read on the Gray Zone,
okay,
you print pictures, and I mean, I'll let you go from there. And
okay, just 1 second. I will show you
photographic
the article.
evidence.
1 second. We'll go to the picture. Just 1 second. We'll just go to the picture. I'll share the picture with you. I'll share the. Okay, so present. Stop screen for a minute. Stop screen for a minute. Okay, then share screen. Okay, now check this out. Okay, when you have the opportunity. Okay, this is the article that he wrote about it. Don't know if you can see it on the screen there. Yeah, just a minute. Okay, this is the article. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, this is the article that he wrote, right? On the Gray Zone, if you go to the Gray Zone and you read September 7th, testimonies reveal Israel's military shelling Israeli citizens and tanks, with tanks and missiles. Okay, Israeli military received orders to shell Israeli homes, even their own bases, okay, as they were overwhelmed by Hamas militants on October 7th. How many Israeli citizens said, how many Israeli citizens said have been burnt alive, were actually killed by friendly fire? Okay, so we get that now, yeah? So let me go back to sharing the presentation, okay? So now you can see his page or whatever, and you could probably go to it and check it. Yeah, right. So there we go.
To contradict the statements that have come out of Jerusalem.
So it's important to understand that the main goal in this Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad military offensive was to gather as many captives as possible, particularly Israeli soldiers, in order to trigger the kind of prisoner exchange that was witnessed when Gilad Shalit.
Exactly. I mentioned that to you earlier on. That is what their aim was, to gather as many prisoners as they can so they can make a prisoner exchange. Okay?
In 2011 was released, the Israeli soldier who was taken in 2006, who was operating a tank outside Gaza, was taken in exchange for 1,027 Palestinian prisoners, including the current prime minister of Gaza, Yahya Sinwar. So this entire Al-Aqsa flood operation is understood through the against the backdrop of the Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange. So gunmen were sent with detailed maps to population centers and to military bases. In the military bases, they were obviously given instructions to attack and kill Israeli soldiers who were maintaining the siege of Gaza. the much of the Gaza division.
Okay, right, clear. Yeah, they were given orders. Okay, the resistance were given orders to go and kill soldiers. So it's a soldier to soldier here now, not innocent civilians. Were given strict plans to go and attack certain base and whatever. So we know that now. This we don't condemn. We cannot condemn that now. Mujahideen are fighting against the enemy. The resistance is fighting against the enemy. It's not something to condemn. Okay, fine. Amongst that, there were people who got caught while the concert was going on or whatever. They took some prisoners or whatever. So we need to know what to condemn now. Yeah. So they were given orders to go to certain bases, which they went. They went to these bases. They took prisoners. They killed soldier to soldier. Soldier to soldier, they went to the bases and killed soldier to soldier. They fought with the soldiers we saw in their film or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. We cannot condemn that. As Muslims, we're not allowed to condemn that now because this is resistance fighting for its own freedom or whatever. Okay.
Which has also been responsible for so many massacres inside Gaza over the years, was wiped out.
Okay, the Quran tells us clearly, fight those who fight you and drive you out of your houses. It is clear. Yeah, we know that. We know that. Like who do you fight? You fight those who actually fight you and drive you out of your houses. And this is what they went and done. Because like the guy is saying now, for so many years, for so many decades, this is what has been happening to the Palestinians. Okay.
The the Erez crossing. That I don't know if you've been through there,
Yeah,
Chris,
many
but
times, many times. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, because you've been to Gaza, I've been through there 3 times. It is this sort of the nexus, the nerve center of the siege of Gaza. It's not only where you cross through if you want to enter Gaza and return to, or if you're a resident of Gaza, you'll have to pass through there to get medical treatment outside. It's the home of the civil administration, the bureaucracy of the panopticon style occupation of Gaza. So that was immediately overrun by gunmen as a military target. And with all these soldiers inside.
Okay, as a military target, genuinely military target. Do you condemn that as a Muslim? You shouldn't condemn that. Yeah, this is genuinely a military target. That's what they went for. That's what they attacked. And that's it. The Quran makes it clear. Fight those who fight you. Yeah, and drive you out of your houses, and that's what happened. They went and fought those who fought them and drove them out of their houses. And this is coming from an American guy here, an American reporter here. Okay,
the head of the Gaza division actually went into an underground bunker. He recounted this story to Haaretz and made the tough decision to bomb Erez crossing. And they sent health.
So the head of the Gaza division, who's in charge of Gaza, went into a bunker and decided that now they're going to bomb their own people. They're going to bomb their own people. Okay, they just took the decision like this, and then all that blame now comes on Hamas, because he's going to explain now. Hamas went and done that operation. Okay, the resistance went and done that operation after Fajr. After Fajr, they came when the sun was rising. They came out and then whatever. They done the operation and they left. They done the operation for 3 hours, 4 hours, and they left. What happened after that now is not. They're not to blame. Okay.
Fire missiles onto the Erez crossing from Apache helicopters, and this was basically the beginning of the Iron Swords operation that Netanyahu declared several days later, which is essentially the carpet bombing of Gaza. But Apache helicopters were scrambled in the morning. The assault began around like 6 a.m. at daybreak. And by 10:30 a.m., according to Israeli media accounts, all of the special forces commando teams, the well-trained Hamas teams, had already left.
Right. Did you hear that now? Yeah. So from 6 o'clock until 10:30, all the Hamas teams, all the resistance had already left. So 4 hours, they done their operation, whatever, attacked bases and whatever. They went and took whatever civilians were there, they took them, didn't harm them or whatever, they took them as prisoners. Now the action starts after 10 o'clock, after 10:30. This is where the action starts now as far as the Israelis are concerned. Okay, now listen carefully. Now this is where you need to be very attentive, because this is where you have to answer on the day of judgment to Allah about them condemning or not condemning or whatever. Yeah. So there you go. And remember what the Quran tells us: fight those who fight you, fight those who drive you out of your houses, and whatever. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the verse, but I'm just in my mind like this. Anyway, so
By that point, there were 2 squadrons of Apache helicopters that had been scrambled, and they were not even at full strength until 12 p.m. So you have action at Erez Crossing. Then you have Kibbutz Be'eri, which is the site of some of the it registered the most casualties of non-combatants. I counted something like 150 among the confirmed death toll printed at Haaretz. And most of them, they were not soldiers. These were people who were caught in crossfire. Hamas gunmen had tried to take them captive, and there were standoffs in their homes. And by the time Israeli special forces arrived, many of those standoffs had been either ended, or they ended them simply by shelling people's homes.
Okay, you hear that now? Yeah, it was ended. By the time they reached there, it was ended. Yeah, these people were left. There are people who said that the resistance, when they came into a woman's house. They talked to her. There was even a banana on the table, and he asked her, "Can I take one?" They didn't attack them or kill them. Yeah. Now when they came, now they are the ones now who started the aggression with their own people, and then they blame it on Hamas and start a war on Palestine, on Gaza, and decimate Gaza and kill tens and 50 and then tens and 11. I don't know how much it's reached now. I'm not actually counting. I think it's 11,000 people have been killed. Most of them children. See what I mean? So the lies that they tell, the stories that they invent to make the world, now they become the victim. They're defending themselves. They have to defend themselves, and everybody's going around like a parrot. What about the Gazans defending themselves? You see, Gazans don't have rights to defend themselves. The Ghazawi don't have the right, but those who are telling lies, those who are oppressing them, they have the right to defend themselves. Okay,
with tanks, according to Yasmin Porat, who had fled the electronic music festival, which had come under attack, which was held right between Kibbutz Be'eri and Kibbutz Re'im, which also have military bases essentially embedded within them. It was held on the road between these 2 kibbutzim and came under attack. Many captives were taken. This woman, Yasmin Porat, fled to Kibbutz Be'eri, went into a home with her partner, and then they were taken captive momentarily by gunmen. And she recounted to Israeli national radio that when the Israeli special forces arrived, they just started shooting everyone, and that most of the captives, along with the Hamas gunmen, were caught in the crossfire.
Okay, right. So they came and they started shooting everyone. And those who they were shooting were actually the innocents were caught in the crossfire, because now they're fighting now with the soldiers. They're fighting with the soldiers, soldier to soldier, and the people got caught in the crossfire. A lot of them in the kibbutz.
And that everyone was killed except for her and her captor, who used her as a kind of human shield in order to guarantee his.
Okay, human shields. They blame the resistance of using human shields or whatever, using innocent civilians. Yet they are the ones who use human shields, and this guy actually mentioned it now.
His own safety when he surrendered. She saw her own partner, whose hands had been bound by her captors, get shot by Israeli special forces, and then they lobbed 2 tank shells.
Wait. She saw her own partner get killed by Israeli soldiers. You see that now? Yeah. Innocent civilian, okay, gets killed by Israeli soldiers, and yet who do they blame that on now? All that is blamed on the resistance. So we are made now as Muslims, we are made to condemn what they done, not what the resistance done. We are made to condemn what they done. Okay.
Shells into the home that she had been in. So if you look at the pictures of Kibbutz Be'eri, they look like homes in Gaza that I've seen, or you may have seen, that came under shelling from Israeli tanks and Israeli artillery. There's no way that Hamas gunmen could have done that much structural damage to this entire kibbutz with just the small arms that they were equipped with, Kalashnikovs and some RPGs.
Okay, I
So,
mentioned that to you earlier on.
I-24,
I mentioned that earlier on. There's no way that the resistance could have caused so much damage that they caused. Okay, with the equipment that they had. They only had a few RPGs and a few what's the name rocket propelled grenade. Yet the whole thing is being blamed on them now. They killed 1,400 people according to the reports, and then the Western media keeps repeating that, keeps asking Muslims, "Do you condemn that? Do you condemn that?" That is not what happened. What they are saying is not what happened. The official story is not what happened. Okay.
Israeli Foreign Ministry sponsored propaganda network actually went to this kibbutz on a guided tour and said they saw tank tracks everywhere. You can, it's obvious what happened there.
Yeah, tanks
and
came
it
in.
was stated clearly by
tanks came in and actually caused havoc there. Okay, they saw the tank tracks there, so it was actually them who entered and did whatever they did, right? And then they blame that now on the resistance. Now they go to Gaza, bomb Gaza to smithereens, making people think that because of what happened, that's why we're bombing them. No, you killed your own people, and these people, your people, need to rebel against you. They need to turn against you because of your evil that you've done. You know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Isra that I'll talk about that afterwards. We will finish with that, inshallah. Okay.
The security coordinator of Kibbutz Be'eri, who you quoted at the top of this interview, he was on a hotline with the Israeli military command, and they decided to shell houses on top of their occupants, including Israeli civilians. Now, why were they doing this? As you mentioned, there's the Hannibal Directive.
Exactly. Yeah. We mentioned that earlier on. If you don't know what it is, you go and research it, and you will see it is something that they use now. They will kill their own people in order not to have their people taken as prisoners, in order not to do swap. So I am telling you now, this is my opinion. He's probably going to mention it as well, that there's not going to be any prisoner swap. Because as soon as they're going to find their prisoners, they're going to kill them, and then there'll be no prisoners to swap. So all the resistance fighters will stay in prison, and they will just tell the people that it was the resistance who killed your children, or when we were bombing them, they became part of the collateral damage or whatever. They don't have no intention of freeing the captives, because the head of the head of the resistance have made many offers to them. Give 5 days and we'll release the prisoners. Nope, they don't want to know. They don't want to know because they don't want to release these prisoners. This is their plan. They're not going to release their prisoners. They're going to kill them instead, so that they don't have to swap them for what's the name? They don't have to swap them for their prisoner for the resistance prisoners. They have so many thousands of them. Some of them wouldn't even do anything. Some of them were walking in the streets and they got them arrested.
This secret directive, well, a once secret directive that was introduced after Israel entered into a major prisoner swap with, I believe, the PFLP-GC, which operates out of Syria, in exchange for Ahmed Jibril and hundreds of other prisoners. in order to get back some Israeli soldiers who I think had been taken in the Lebanese civil war.
I think it was only 3. I don't think it was very.
Yeah, it was 3.
Right. Okay. Okay, brother. No, the reason why I went solo here, right? You mentioned. Let me make it clear. Maybe earlier I didn't mention it. I haven't been on online for about 4 months, 3-4 months, and everything. So obviously my StreamYard is, I'm not subscribed anymore, so I cannot log into the other channels. I really wanted to actually get that on all the other channels of what do you call it? The network. But unfortunately, I couldn't. But inshallah, I'll get brothers to share it, and I'll pass it on. Please, if you can pass it on as well, because very, very important information in there. And we'll carry on with this. We've gone past the hour mark, but it doesn't matter. As long as it takes, we will be sharing it.
And so this is a politically painful prisoner swap. And the Israeli public was furious, and the right-wing politicians were furious. So they introduced this directive named for the Carthaginian general, Hannibal, who took his own life. He took poison rather than be taken captive by the enemy. And it authorizes Israeli commanders to kill their own soldiers if they're taken captive by the enemy in order to prevent such a prisoner swap from taking place. And it was used again. This is kind of when it got exposed in 2014, August 1st, 2014, what's known as Black Friday in southern Gaza. And I was actually there in the aftermath of this massacre. A lieutenant named Hadar Golden was taken by Hamas fighters. He was in the field. Israel broke a ceasefire and started attacking.
Okay, something very interesting now. Who usually breaks the ceasefires? Then, So these people cannot be trusted, even with ceasefires. Yeah, they will break ceasefires, and then that's why they don't want to have a ceasefire. They're not interested in having a ceasefire. Yeah. So anyway, let's carry on.
Around the southern city of Rafah, and the Israeli military command authorized airstrikes, artillery strikes, tank fire to bring the full wrath of the Israeli military onto this area in order to make sure that this soldier did not get taken alive. And over 100 people in Rafah were killed in this massacre. The morgues were filling up. It was hideous. I actually visited a hospital.
See, so it's not the first time they do this. It's not the first time they do this. So those who are in the West, who are every time thinking that history started on October the 7th, they need to go back and learn their history. Yeah, they need to go back and learn their history. It's something that they do all the time. And now, especially with this new directive, the Hannibal directive, you will see more innocent Israelis who will be killed, who will be shelled because of their government. And you probably that's why it's gone on for so long, and they don't want to have any ceasefire. They're not interested in ceasefire. What they said is that either they will get their prisoners back, they'll take their prisoners back, and some people are even going as far as saying they're going to nuke. They're going to nuke in the parliament. They mentioned they want to nuke Palestine. Can you imagine these type of people? Are they normal? Are these people normal? They wanted to nuke Palestine. Can you imagine? Take their prisoners back. We want all our prisoners. They haven't mentioned about giving the prisoners swap. They want all their prisoners, and then once they've got all their prisoners, that's it. They will decimate them, the whole of Gaza.
Called Kuwaiti Hospital, which is now under attack again. And because the mortuaries were so full of bodies on this day, they actually had to bring in ice cream coolers to store the bodies of babies. The doctor actually who I interviewed about that, his entire family was killed about a week and a half ago after he refused Israeli orders to evacuate Kuwaiti Hospital. But back to the Hannibal directive, we have to question whether it was put into play on October 7th, because we not only have the Erez crossing, where many soldiers were killed, and if you look at the aftermath, the roof was clearly brought down. There's serious structural damage to the roof of Erez crossing. You have Kibbutz Be'eri, where there was tank shelling, and then you have these Apache helicopter pilots in the air who were stating in their testimonies in Hebrew to Israeli media that they had no intelligence, no way of distinguishing civilian from combatant on the ground, and yet they were told to empty their tanks, just completely unload their ammo, then head back to the base, get filled up again, reload, and then go shoot as many cars and people as they can on the ground. Pure chaos.
Did you hear that? They emptied their tanks and then go back and come back again and shoot as many cars and everything. Now, the damage that was caused, he mentioned that earlier on, to whatever cars and whatever, the resistance could not have done that. There's no way they could have blown up all these cars and, like, blown up these houses or whatever. They did not have the capacity to do it with what they were carrying with them. Their weapons in their hands and say, like, RPGs and everything. The rest was done by these people, and we need to know what we're condemning and what we're not condemning.
These testimonies have been totally ignored, by the way, by Western media. What
did you hear that? Yeah, these testimonies are out there, but the Western media totally ignores them because they want everybody to believe the official lies that they've been told. So they're just giving you lies all the time, and these, they put them aside, and they want you to believe the lies.
Were they encouraged to kill captives or shoot cars that they thought contained captives? We don't know. What we do know is there were orders from the top to kill Israeli civilians if Hamas gunmen were around them in order to get the gunmen. And it's
okay, yeah, to kill the civilians if the resistance was around them. So don't let them get taken away. Kill them.
It's like the same doctrine, military doctrine that's being employed in Gaza. Any civilian is a target if they are the quote unquote terrorists' next door neighbor. Israel actually calls it the neighbor policy. They don't know any other doctrine.
Okay, yeah, this is one thing as well, yeah. They would bomb a house just because they would bomb a whole building, they will bomb it just because they suspect one member of the resistance to be living in there, whether he's there, he's not there, whether he really lives there, he doesn't really live there. They will bomb the whole building just because of that. This is why the hospitals, they claim as well that they were members of the resistance that were in there. That's why they bomb a whole hospital, and he's explaining now what they call that as well. Okay, so all this you have to bear in mind when we look at what's going on in Gaza at the moment, and we have to make a lot of dua for them. Their courage is very, very strong. I mean, these people are getting bombs falling on their heads every time, and they're still la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah every time. Yeah,
they don't have any other means of targeting, so it's just, and they weren't prepared, obviously, for this military onslaught, so they just went to their core doctrine of bombing everything in sight. And so that brings us to the third scenario. We talked about Erez crossing, Kibbutz Be'eri. Then you have the chaos of the Nova Electronic Music Festival. And it's there that it appears clear that after a lot of these Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad commando teams had left, this is an element that's left out in a lot of Western media. Many people from Gaza just started streaming in, including like lower level characters from the armed factions who may have had weapons but weren't part of the operation.
Right. Okay. Did you understand this clearly now? On the video from what the Muqawama was showing, the resistance, it does show people walking. They saw the gates open. They saw the first time they're going over the border. People were just walking through. Yeah, just walking through, guns, no guns, or whatever. They're just walking through because it is the first time that some of them had even ever walked into Israel, had ever seen what how Israel looks like. The border was open, and that's it. They walked through. Yeah, and this is what happened now.
And weren't trained onlookers, people who just wanted to see what Israel looked like, to see the land that their families had been kicked off. And there were some heinous killings, and you could see actual captives being taken by guys on motorcycles who didn't even have weapons. They were just
Okay, right. Now, there's the other thing now. When they say that 1,400 Israelis were killed, no. Among the people who were killed, many of them were people who just walked in through the border, and they were Palestinians. And like he said, there were some of them who were just going past on motorcycle and just taking people. So it's not actually the resistance who've taken all these captives, people for just for the sake of it.
grabbing people. A lot of this happened around the Nova Music Festival. There was a lot of shooting between festival security guards and various gunmen, and a lot of people were killed. But many people were fleeing the festival by car. There is video of some Hamas gunmen stopping cars and shooting people, but then you have all of these images that the Israeli Foreign Ministry put out of cars that are completely melted and their corpses inside are charred.
Okay. This is what I wanted to mention. What Hamas had with them, they could not, of course, that much damage. And he's going to explain now how this damage happened.
And those, to me, are telltale signs of Hellfire missile strikes from Apache helicopters.
Hellfire missiles.
And the Apache...
Hellfire missiles from Apache helicopters. This is what caused that much damage on their cars, burnt the people's bodies and everything, And even these people are telling you now it could not have been the resistance who caused that much damage, because they didn't have the equipment. Okay? So now we know that when we get told to condemn, we can explain what we condemn and what we don't condemn. What they didn't do, we cannot condemn that. We've checked, we've verified, we've got them statements from the actual people themselves who are investigating. They've given us the proof. Now we know from our hearts what we can condemn and what we can't. Yes, the innocent civilians that they killed, if they killed any few, whatever here and there or whatever that they killed, fine. Their aim was to attack the bases, man to man, soldier to soldier. Khalas, that was done. Yeah. The people that they took with them, some of the foreigners or whatever who were in the concert or whatever, okay, that as well, they shouldn't have done that or whatever. We can condemn them for that.
A crews, the squadrons, they put out video afterwards of themselves shooting cars, hitting cars with Hellfire missiles, and shooting people who were just pedestrians walking on the ground with cannon fire. We don't know who those people were.
Okay, did you hear that now? They put video of themselves of them shooting cars with Hellfire missiles. So they've actually got the proof themselves. Yet they turn around and tell us that it is the resistance that did that, and we have to condemn the resistance, according to them, for something that the resistance they did not do. They didn't do it. How can you condemn them then? See, they don't want to tell us the truth. They want us to condemn lies or whatever. And as Muslims, we have to check anything that comes to us before we actually spread it.
But if you look at a lot of the cars were heading back to Gaza, so they were very likely cars of people from Gaza who may have been taking captives, and so many captives or would-be captives were killed. Was one of them Shani Luke, this woman who the Israeli Foreign Ministry has been making such a big deal of, who was a festival party goer?
Did you hear that now? Yeah, even non-resistance were taking prisoners with them in their car. They were just capturing people and taking in the car, and these cars were attacked, and innocent civilians, innocent Gazans, and innocent Israelis were both killed in those cars by what? Apache airplanes, Apache helicopters. Okay, clear.
Who was attractive, and I think she was like a German citizen, and there's some video of her being taken. They say they found a skull fragment from her. Was she in a car that was hit by a Hellfire missile? Unclear, but it's very clear that many of these cars were hit by Apache helicopters, and the helicopter pilots said they had no idea who was in them.
Okay, now I actually saw I actually saw with my own eyes. I have the video. I can't share it now or whatever, but if maybe I can. I've shared it with some brothers where the actual helicopter image is showing. The green thing that they show, like from the helicopter image, and people running. People were running and they were bombing them. So they have it. They have all these in front of them, and yet they tell lies to us to make us condemn the resistance, so that they now can say, okay, we have proof that it was the resistance who done it. Yet they have these evidences themselves.
They were shooting people also on the other side in Gaza after they entered, by the afternoon of October 7th. It's very clear to me that many people were killed. Many Israelis were killed by Israeli forces.
Okay, they keep saying 1,400, 1,400. Now we have proof that most of them were killed by their own people. The Hannibal directive, a lot of their soldiers were killed. Plus, on top of it, the innocent civilians that they claim were killed by themselves.
Along with many active duty uniformed Israeli soldiers who were actively engaged in the siege of Gaza, who were combatants.
I just want to buttress that. I went into Kuwait after the first Gulf War and drove up the highway of death, which was miles and miles of Iraqi military vehicles, all of which had been hit by Apache helicopters. And when I saw one of the images of a car with two completely blackened corpses, that is what I saw in vehicle after vehicle after vehicle going into Kuwait. Some of these images, which were disseminated by the IDF, have been removed. And maybe you can explain why you think they were no longer made available to the public.
Well, when I first went to Gaza in 2014, in the midst of Israel's 51-day-long assault on Gaza, I came across a car that was just on the roadside that had been roasted by a Hellfire missile, along with its driver. The driver's body had been removed, but it was undoubtedly charred, and you could actually see his sandal melted into the gas pedal. And he had been hit by a Hellfire missile. I put the picture, I embedded the picture in my article just to compare it to the vehicles that the Israeli Foreign Ministry was pointing to as evidence of Hamas savagery, and it's identical. He was killed, by the way. He was as a taxi driver, just a poor young guy named Fadi Alawa, who had taken a Hamas fighter, a wounded fighter, to the hospital without even knowing that he had been a fighter, and so they killed him. So the Israeli Foreign Ministry has a website called, I think, Hamas-massacre.com, and the UN ambassador, this unhinged character named Gilad Erdan, who used to be in charge of Israel's meddling operations to attack college students who were organizing to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel, or forming Palestine solidarity student groups. Gilad Erdan whipped out this QR code at his UN address, I think about 2 weeks ago. And the QR code was supposed to lead to a Google Drive folder that contained all these images of, charred cars, melted bodies, and all sorts of other atrocities that Hamas had committed. But all the pictures eventually disappeared.
See what happened now? Yeah. Pictures have disappeared. They have pictures of these because they done it themselves. Yeah, they done it themselves after the resistance had left. Now the chaos started, and all this was blamed on the resistance.
My initial read was that they concluded that a lot of these pictures were either fake, or they could have even depicted Hamas fighters who had come in and been hit by Hellfire missiles. But then Gilad Erdan, in embarrassment, later said that there was a technical error, and he tried to repost the images. And that makes sense, because they have no shame. They lie relentlessly, shamelessly, and
see, their own people are saying they lie relentlessly and shamelessly. And yet you have a lot of people who are believing these lies, a lot of people in the West, a lot of people are going on repeating these lies every time they interview a Muslim, every time you hear them, oh, Hamas killed them, decapitated. And even until now, until today, this thing has been debunked. They still repeat it. Hamas raped women. And these lies have been repeated every now and again. Yeah. And this reporter is telling you, he is confirming that they lie. And it's it, yeah. So us as Muslims now, again, the ayah of Quran, we have to remember that, we don't believe these liars. We verified before we actually we condemn, or before we actually sit down and say to people like, now I condemn the resistance because they did this, they did that. No, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. It's them who done it.
So it didn't seem like they actually deleted them out of shame. They deleted them because of a major technical error, which is also ironic because Israel's supposed to be the technically savvy startup nation that's teaching the world through innovation and creativity how we can enter the AI future, but they can't even maintain a simple Google Drive. That just shows like the boneheadedness of this entire operation, but it's worked. It's been very successful in convincing Brussels and Washington that Hamas was ISIS. That is Israel's message.
Exactly. I wanted to come on to that now. Yeah. They've been repeating that Hamas is ISIS, Hamas is ISIS, Hamas is ISIS, where there is no similarity at all. Hamas is a resistance group that is resisting an occupation in their country. They've never left their country and gone and done anything outside their country. All that they're doing is against in their country against Israel. The occupiers who are occupying them, but they want to drum that in the mind of the people now. Compare them to ISIS. Compare them to what ISIS done in Syria, in whatever other countries as well, Iraq and all that. They're trying to compare them now. Yeah, to brainwash people to make them believe that the resistant, the genuine resistance of a country that has been occupied. Now compare them to Daesh. Now compare them to ISIS. Now see what they want to do. So people hate them. But now when you defend the resistance, oh, you're defending Daesh. You're defending ISIS now. You're defending what do you call it? Terrorists or whatever. So this is it's come to this point now.
Hamas is ISIS. They're irrational. They aim to simply kill Jews. They don't have any political demands, and the only response to them is the response that the U.S. is the response that the U.S. waged on ISIS after supporting ISIS, by the way, in Syria, which was to destroy much of Raqqa, ISIS's base of operation, as well as Mosul in Iraq. And the man who actually oversaw those operations, James Glynn, the Marine officer, was sent to Israel to consult the Israeli military in the immediate aftermath of October 7th on how they should respond. Now the Pentagon's sort of pulling back and saying, whoa, this is a little bit crazy for us even. We don't even know where what you're targeting, where your targeting is coming from. But they gave him the green light because they fell for the propaganda shock and awe campaign of these photos. And recently, actually, at a fundraiser for the Republican Jewish Coalition, which is funded substantially by the Adelson family of the late Likudnik oligarch Sheldon Adelson, but also many other wealthy Republican pro-Israel Jews in Las Vegas, at Adelson's hotel. A character named Eli Beer appears on stage, who is a volunteer rescuer and a religious nationalist Orthodox Jew, I think from New York, who is living in Israel and had arrived as a first responder on October 7th through a group called United Hatzalah. And this is obviously kind of like a fundraising speech. And he declares that a baby had been burned in an oven, had been baked in an oven.
Did you hear that? Yeah. Now, somebody from them mentioned that the baby had been baked in an oven. Can you imagine? Yeah. And they're blaming that on Hamas now.
By Hamas, quote unquote, terrorists. And I'm looking at his comments right now because I have him in front of me. He actually had not seen any baby in an oven. It was someone named Eli Moskowitz, who is from his first responder United Hatzalah team. And Eli Moskowitz had not seen any baby baked in an oven. He said that he found a small bag with contents of body parts that had been apparently pressed against a heating element. And these body parts were displayed by Netanyahu and filtered out on Twitter and sent to influencers by the Israeli Foreign Ministry and the PM's office after Netanyahu was embarrassed by the retraction of the story about 40 beheaded babies.
Right. Okay. Now you see, even Biden, Sleepy Joe actually said that he actually saw photos of them. What a lie! He lied to the people and said he saw photos of 40 babies that were actually executed, and he didn't see anything, and people believed him. Until now, like I said, people in the news are still mentioning it. Western media still mentioning it, and this guy now about the baby in the oven. He didn't see it. Neither the person who told him saw it. Nobody actually saw it. Yet they propagated that. And the Western media still believe that.
So if we go back to like October 8th, CNN and Biden begin telling this phony story about 40 beheaded babies. They are both for.
You remember that, yeah? Biden said that he comes to the people and say, 40 babies, yeah, had been, and apparently I heard that Netanyahu actually picked up the phone and called them to get their support now. He mentioned this, that 40 babies were decapitated or whatever. He mentioned this. I remember I saw in news that he mentioned it, and now that spreads everywhere, you see. They didn't even see pictures. They didn't have the proof. Yet they spread that everywhere. And until today, many Muslims believe that. Many Muslims condemn our brothers for that, even though they know that Islam prohibits that, because we didn't have the evidence for it. We didn't have the evidence. We didn't see the evidence, or we don't know. And a lot of people don't do what this verse says. Verify something before you believe it, especially if it is being brought to you by an evildoer, by evildoers, and these people are evildoers. We shouldn't listen. We shouldn't listen to what they say.
Forced to retract. Netanyahu puts out an image of some burned body parts, says it's a baby, and then flash forward to this fundraiser in Las Vegas where these first responders are saying that there was a baby baked in an oven based on body parts they had in a bag, which were pressed against a heating element. Now put 2 and 2 together. What kind of heating element could have created that much heat to char a body part, which didn't even belong to a baby, but was put forward by Netanyahu to save face? It was likely a Hellfire missile, and body parts that had been blown to bits by a Hellfire missile, which were likely an Israeli citizen, but could have been someone from Gaza, are being put forward as an Israeli baby. But there's only, if you look at the confirmed death count, only one Israeli baby was killed.
One Israeli baby was killed, yeah. And they say that 40 were decapitated, and among the 1,000, they say there's plenty of babies and children and everything in there. And this guy is confirming now, in all the people who were killed, it was only one baby that was killed. So we have to bear that in mind now. When we are being told, when we're being asked, we have evidence, we make reference to this guy. Remember his name, Max Blumenthal. Yeah, Blumenthal. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but you can we can search for his name or whatever. This guy is the evidence.
And it's, horrible and tragic. There's a 10-month-old baby named Millie Cohen who was accidentally shot by a Hamas gunman in an exchange of fire. And more reporting will come out about this. But you can look at the confirmed death toll at Haaretz. There's no other baby. There's no baby burned in an oven. No one's even saying that. So what we're looking at is the most horrific, lurid propaganda, which is bogus, all derives from apparent friendly fire and is being spun in order to justify the actual beheading of babies with missiles in the Gaza Strip and the extermination, the systematic extermination of an entire society. I mean, a senior security source, Israeli security source, told Yediot Aharonot, the top Israeli tabloid, that 20,000 people had been killed in Gaza. I personally think that could be an overcount, and they're just trying to boast to the Israeli public about how many people they've killed to satisfy the bloodlust of the public after October 7th. But if that's true, that's like 1% of the entire population, which is definitely qualifies as genocide. So this propaganda has been used to justify the realization of the lie. Many Israelis who are involved in this military operation or who are seen torturing people in the West Bank, workers in the West Bank on camera, they're reenacting the lurid propaganda that they believe to be true about October 7th. And it could lead to regional war because the genocidal fury has so overwhelmed Israeli society and Brussels and Washington. The propaganda, the shock and awe campaign has prevented Brussels and Washington from being able to put any check on it.
What do you think this means for the hostages that are in Gaza?
That's a great.
Right. Listen to this now. Yeah, the hostages. We mentioned earlier on that there will not be a hostage. They will not be released. Let's hear what he says.
Question, and I think one of the hostages answered it. I don't know her name. She appears to be from one of the kibbutzim that had the most captives taken. It's called Nir Oz, and that's where the two of the elderly captives who were released came from. And it's a kibbutz that has many people from the left of the Israeli political spectrum who would be critics of Netanyahu come from. So he may not be, Netanyahu, his government, and the Israeli population may not be very favorably disposed to them. One of these hostages, an older woman, appeared on camera from wherever she was being held inside Gaza and excoriated Netanyahu and said, "You have no desire to get us. What are you doing? Have a ceasefire and negotiate for our release and get us out here. You've already killed 50 of us."
Exactly, right? They've killed 50 already. Yeah, and even the resistance mentioned that 50 have been killed. So they've killed 50 of their own, and they're not interested in taking out the rest of them. They will do their best to have the rest of them killed, and then just blame it on the resistance. In crossfire, they got killed, or when we were killing when we were bombing the terrorists, they were with them. They're as human shields or whatever. They're going to come up with excuses. They're not interested in any deal, any deal to free the what do you call it? The prisoners.
And that is correct. At least 50 captives have already been killed in these blitzkrieg-like Israeli bombings where they're using 2,000-pound bombs and like GBU 82 bunker buster bombs, or sorry, Mark 82 bunker buster bombs. So I don't think they'll make it out alive. It would be a miracle if they made it out alive. I think.
You see what he says? Yeah, he don't think that they'll make it out alive. He himself is saying now that they will kill their own prisoners, and these people will not make it out alive. So this is how it's going. Yeah. So for us now, for us to condemn, for us to whatever, we've got the full information here. Yeah. So we act upon what the Quran tells us. The Quran tells us to actually check something before you believe it. Now we've got the evidence. Now we know what's going to happen.
I think everyone wants them to make it out alive, whether they are on the anti-Zionist side or, well, I shouldn't say everyone wants to make it out alive. It appears that those who want them to make it out are those who are protesting Netanyahu outside his office and outside the military headquarters, who tend to be leftists or anti-Zionists in Israel. And those who could care less about them getting out are Netanyahu's supporters and the military supporters and the military commanders themselves. Because what about this operation suggests that they're actually trying to rescue hostages? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the political dynamics that have been put in play by assaulting everyone in the Gaza Strip, assaulting everyone, are sending the message that no negotiations are possible whatsoever. I think Netanyahu could fall at any day as this operation goes on if certain things take place. For example, if the soldiers that the Israeli military has sent into the few kind of unpopulated areas in northern Gaza where they've set up these de facto bases of Merkava tanks, if they actually get out of their tanks and wade into the rubble or try to actually take out tunnels themselves, they're going to lose many, many.
They've already started losing many, many men. Every day we see on TV here in the Gulf, we see they show how many soldiers are getting killed, how many Israeli soldiers are getting killed. They're not telling the truth. They're losing tank after tank, and one tank cost them $170 million. They said, one of these tanks, and they're losing every day. The resistance is saying we've blown up 5 tanks, we've blown up 10 tanks, we've blown up 11 tanks, and they show the pictures as well. It's being shown everywhere and people have it. So they're losing a lot of men, and this is why Netanyahu is saying that this is going to be a long war, because he knows that once the war is over, he will have to answer to his people, and his people will go against him. So he will keep them in the war so that he doesn't have to answer to them. We'll carry on because time is going past, and I don't want to make this too long as well. But because there's a lot of information here, we have to get it all done.
Lives, and Netanyahu will likely fall, but he would also fall if he negotiated for the release of these captives. Why? Because of the propaganda that he put into play. The propaganda was so extreme and so lurid, and they went so far beyond an already horrific reality on October 7th, that the Israeli public has been whipped into such a fervor that they would not stand for any negotiation with Hamas. So the only objective that can be put forward, which has been reinforced by Tony Blinken, is regime change in Gaza. And regime change in Gaza means months and months of grinding genocidal war in which no captive could possibly survive.
Isn't it straightforward? They took the captives because they wanted an exchange, a prisoner exchange. I mean, Netanyahu could empty the Israeli prisons of 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 10,000 Palestinian prisoners, and they would get the hostages would go home, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't about Hamas per se. Hamas does have the political mandate to carry out an armed struggle. That's why it was elected in 2006, including by people who were not necessarily Islamists outside of its base. They actually won cities across the West Bank. It wasn't that they won Gaza. They won all of Palestine that was able to vote. So their mandate is to do armed struggle to resist, where the Fatah and the Palestinian Authority basically gave up.
Okay, so we can see now he's saying himself that they are a resistance group, not a terrorist organization. So when people try to throw it in our face that they are a terrorist organization, we can see that they had the mandate to protect those people. They have the mandate from the people themselves, not just the people of Gaza, but the people of the West Bank as well.
And they're going to continue doing that. But Palestinian armed struggle has always been driven by political demands that were essentially rational and were related to ending ethnic cleansing and ending the military occupation of Palestinians. The leadership of Hamas put forward clear political demands at the beginning of Al-Aqsa flood, as they did in 2014 during Operation Cast Lead, and they relate to preventing the incursions of fanatical religious nationalists to the Al-Aqsa compound, the third holiest site in Islam. They relate to ending the siege of Gaza so that they can actually they can enjoy some sovereignty. They can actually fish in their own seas. They can have an economy. They can visit Jerusalem. Emptying the Israeli prisons, where something like 1,500 Palestinians are now held without charges. 700 Palestinian children pass in and out of these prisons every year. There are currently at least 150. Now there's probably 200 Palestinian children being held in these jails. They're hostages. They've been kidnapped. I've gone to their trials in the Israeli children's courts, and they're kidnapped in their own beds. Ahed Tamimi was just kidnapped. She, I've known her since she was a child, and her village, Nabi Saleh, has been waging this unarmed struggle against the Israeli occupation in the West Bank. Her dad was kidnapped, Bassem, who's really the leader of that struggle and is an international hero. And so it relates to the whole occupation. And the only way that they could trigger some kind of negotiation, they believe, was by taking captives, because all diplomatic channels had been cut off. The entire West had declared Hamas a terrorist organization that could not be negotiated with. So the only way to spur negotiations is through violence. And that's what they did. And what they've done is force the essential dynamics of Zionism into an accelerated mode, because Zionism as a settler colonial movement based on an anachronistic ideology, Herrenvolk ideology from like turn of the century Europe, has demonstrated its unwillingness to accommodate with the native population as it seeks to consolidate its settler colonial presence. And so it must move towards genocide, as all other settler colonial movements have done. And so that's where we're at right now, is the phase of whether Israel will be able to finish the job that it began in 1948 or not. And I think any negotiations that could have taken place with a rational authority are off limits. And this is also an obvious failure of American and Western leadership to recognize not only what they're dealing with in the Gaza Strip, which is just yet another Palestinian faction that is using violence to spur political momentum, because all diplomatic means had been cut off for them, but also what they're dealing with in Israel, where they are dealing with a fundamentally genocidal political movement and a genocidal society. This Israeli society is primed for genocide. You can look at the viral videos, the videos that are going viral in Israeli social media are parents actually enlisting their own children.
Right. So I think now we've understood, we've understood basically what's happening, and really, on the side of us Muslims, what we have to believe and what we don't believe, and the proofs that we have and everything. I think it's clear, yeah. So when we are asked now to condemn and not condemn or whatever, we can just explain to them that no, this is not what happened. This is what happened. You want me to condemn? I don't condemn real resistance. We are not to turn the other cheek. People, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the authority to protect ourselves. We cannot condemn that. And when it comes to civilians, yes, there were some civilians, as he mentions, that were caught in the crossfire. We condemn that. Okay, it shouldn't have happened or whatever. Fine, it wasn't done deliberately. There were accidents that happened. Okay, they shouldn't have taken the civilians as captives. Fine, all these, we can condemn that. Okay. Also, like he mentions as well, a lot of the civilians were taken not by the resistance. People were just on motorcycles, were just taking them, taking hostages and everything. We cannot condemn things that were not done. You see, every time a Muslim does something, all Muslims are asked to condemn. That shouldn't happen. I live in another part of the world, and somebody does something in Africa. I am, Boko Haram or whatever, I don't know what their name. We are asked to condemn. That's not the way it should go. Yeah. These people should understand now. Now, with all this information coming out, these people should understand. And also, there's the verses of Quran that are clear. And also the Quran mentions that these people who are they are fighting those who fight them, and those who drive them out of their houses. It is clear, we can see that. Yeah, they're not like ISIS or whatever. Yeah. So I hope you can benefit from this. I watched this and I thought, let me share it. There's only 5 minutes of it to go, and I don't think there's much more that he can share or whatever. I can't remember at the end of how, but he shared what needed to be shared, and he shared what is important, and what our brothers and sisters need to know about it, and what they need to share with one another. I hope you benefit from it. Whoever else watches it, the beginning maybe there's a bit of problem with the sound or whatever, but eventually, alhamdulillah, I got that sorted. So I hope you benefit from this, and please, please, please make dua for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, because this is what's keeping them going at the moment. Our duas, we can see that the damage has been caused to the enemies, to the occupiers. Yeah, we can see the damage being caused to them. Their tanks, their trucks, their bulldozers, their soldiers, and everything. It is through our dua. Yeah, so please keep making dua for them. I thank you very much, Jazakallah khair, for having attended, and thank you very much for, inshallah, you will watch afterwards or whatever, whoever will be watching. But please pass this on to others. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك سبحان ربك بالعزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.